Hey there, Gemini. How's it going? Welcome to a Mercury retrograde tarot reading. This is going to give us the understanding in this reading about what you're going to be dealing with for this Mercury retrograde, which is going to be lasting the majority of the month of March. In this dynamic here, we're going to be using a tarot deck that's called the Flow Tarot, this one right here, which is traditionally based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So when we deal with this deck, we're going to interpret it in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith sense, and maybe we'll deal with it from a Kabbalistic approach, a little bit of Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and then we will look at it from its standpoint. So we've got a couple of ways that we're going to deal with this, but you know I like to get into the historical aspect of cards here. Now, I'm going to be straightforward with this. With this reading, it could have been about anything from love to finances to education to your career, that home business, or that travel. It's a random reading, and I'm going to let the cards talk about what they want to talk about. But with that being said, that looks like a love reading to me. I'll tell you why. First and foremost, the King and the Queen are here, both of them. And the Queen and King of Snow in the Flow Tarot deck. This is what I mean. We're going to be using this deck, but I'm still going to bring it back to the Rider-Waite-Smith sense. The King and Queen of Snow. This is the King and Queen of Swords in traditional tarot. Now, starting off with the King of Snow or the King of Swords, this is a gentleman here. You can see the polar bear imagery. This is somebody who can be very cold, who can be kind of detached, who can be distant, but very logical. They're attempting to be very disciplined, because in traditional tarot over 100 years ago, this was the card of the military leader. Somebody who wants to bring themselves into a position of leadership in their life, right? And they're in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn kind of energy, which like to attribute things like astrological energy to cards. This is an air sign energy. So this is very Gemini quality, being very in their mind, sometimes being detached, trying to be very logical about things. Air signs, again, Libra, Gemini, Aquarius kind of vibe. That could be you, or that could be a person that you're dealing with. Then we've got the Queen of Swords here, or the Queen of Snow. In this case, this is the card of clarity, but in traditional tarot, again, over 100 years ago, she is the one who knows a great amount of sorrow. Again, whether in the upright position or in the reversal. And her grief is not simple. She portrays, like in a modern sense, will step out of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and out of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Or interpretation. In a modern sense, a lot of people say that if you have a queen or a king, you know, it can represent anybody. You can be a man or you can be a woman and get this card. And that is definitely true, especially from an intuitive standpoint, which Arthur Edward Waite, creator of the Rider-Waite-Smith system, was a fan of. He was a fan of using intuition. But I will say that historically, in the Rider-Waite-Smith sense, the Queen of Swords depicted female grief. And it was the kind that was connected to losses of children, losses of family, losses of those who are close to you, challenges in motherhood, miscarriages. Like, it's a very grief-worthy kind of card. So because we have the King and because we have the Queen, one of you, if you have a relationship dynamic, one of you could be dealing with a great amount of grief, and the other one could be trying to approach things from a very leadership, logistical kind of way of being. But I will say that for some of you, because the Empress is here and the Empress is in the reversal, this can reflect a third person, or it's still two people, and you might be embodying, or your person might be embodying the qualities of both the King and the Queen. Maybe instead of one of you being logical and the other one being put in this position of grief or sorrow, it could be that somebody is embodying both of those energies. Someone's a very logical person, but they have a lot of pain that they're dealing with. And then the other one could be embodying the Empress energy. The Empress is the card of creation, abundance. She represents what was called the Great Mother of the physical Garden of Eden. She's Eve. Essentially, in the biblical tales of the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, that's what the Empress is. So she's the mother. And I think that when she's in the reversal position, because she has to do with abundance and creation and nurturing, she nurtured the entire world family, biblically speaking, from a theological point of view. Because she's in the reversal, she's having difficulty nurturing her own self. Another thing that I want to say is when we have, this is a really kind of heavy energy. Again, when we've got the Queen of Swords and she's connected to family loss, and she specifically deals with problems with mothering and parenthood, and then we've got the card of the Mother in the reversal, somebody's grief that they're having could be, it's like it's doubling down on the energy of a problem in the family dynamic. And then to top it all off, so remember, we're talking about what you're going to be dealing with in the Mercury retrograde from now up until March 20th. There's some kind of an energy deal like with family or separation that could be going on, or grief of the family in the past here. And even the Six of Clouds shows this. The Six of Clouds is a card that is about, well, in traditional tarot, again, that's the Six of Cups. And what's the image on the front of the Six of Cups if you know anything about tarot? It's the image of two children playing in a garden. Oh, if I have that, I should get my other deck. I'll show you. It's a beautiful energy to that deck. Let me see if I have my Rider-Waite-Smith deck here. I'm just going to pause the video for a sec. Okay, I found my box. My box of tarot cards. Check this out. Here. The Six of Cups. See, it's two children who are sharing something with each other, right? It's usually a card connected to gaining some kind of wisdom, connected to family history, or connected to sorrows in the past. And in some senses, like in the vice versa tarot deck, the Six of Cups in the reversal becomes a card of separation. And you have this here. The Six of Clouds was in the reversal, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like going through your history of childhood and kind of looking at those situations in your childhood or in losses in the family from a logical point of view, you know, digesting them from a grown-up perspective so that you can actually, with the card of the Six of Clouds, so you can see the sky clearing on the situation, which is a metaphor. This little sky clearing up is a metaphor for that I'm using right now to help you to understand that sometimes things are dark and sometimes things are stormy, but eventually the clouds part ways and you start to see some revelation, right? You start to see what it was all about. In this case, you start to see and understand some of the separation. And because this is a card connected to wisdom, that means, again, in this Mercury retrograde season up until March 20th, you're likely to gain some wisdom about past situations that you've dealt with in the realms of family, life, or love. And honestly, the Six of Clouds, which is the Six of Cups, is underneath the King of Snow, which is the King of Swords. And that is a dynamic, both of them connected to logic, knowledge, and wisdom. And if you know anything about how knowledge and wisdom works, those two go hand in hand, right? If you have knowledge, you can't, if you don't use it properly and don't have the wisdom to use it, then it's, you know, it's worthless. Knowledge without wisdom, wisdom without knowledge, the two of them need to go over well, or else you end up sticking your foot in your mouth, essentially. Now, there is two other dynamics here that are really interesting that I haven't spoken yet in the future half of your reading. So this is pushing through the Mercury retrograde. We have the Ace of Clouds. This is a great card. This is the Ace of Cups. This insinuates that at some point in the future, you're going to have overflowing abundance and happiness, which in this reading could be between the King and the Queen. So it could be within love. Or if it's in a family dynamic that you're focused on a lot in this Mercury retrograde, then you have overflowing abundance and happiness coming into your life, like the Ace of Cups would at some point in the future. But the thing is this is in the reversal position. And the Ace of Cups is one of those cards, according to historical tarot, that it doesn't lose its meaning just because it's in the reversal. It's still overflowing abundance, but it's on a delay. It's like having to wait a lengthier amount of time here in order to get that overflowing abundance. Now, this card, the Ten of Cups, it's not the Ten of Cups, it's the Ten of Wands. This is a heavy energy too. It's about burdens that a person is carrying around from their past. And see with the card, even on the Flow Tarot deck, whether you're in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn or whether you are in traditional Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, whether it's 100 years ago or a modern tarot deck, the key to that card is to let go of the heavy burdens that you've been carrying. So whether we're talking about, you know, situations between people or wisdom or childhood things. I think that 10 of Wands presents the most important factor out of this reading that you're going to be dealing with over the next, up until March 20th. So darn near 4 weeks. It's the practice of the habit of letting go of some heavy burden that you've been carrying around. And this is in your reading, where we were at the very beginning of this reading wondering who it is that's grieving so much of this loss. And I'm starting to think it's you, if you're the one who has to let something go. For others of you, what could have occurred is that you may have let go of something in the past that you thought you were letting go. Because one of the aspects of the 10 of Wands here, if I was again to go and find the 10 of Wands in the traditional tarot and the Rider-Waite-Smith sense, it's a depiction of a gentleman who's holding up a lot of wood in his hands. He's got 10 sticks or 10 wands, right? And it's too much of a heavy burden. He's right in front of his house. He's almost there. It reminds me the other day of when I had to carry groceries home. And when I was carrying groceries home, as I got to the end of the driveway, I was like, fuck this. I'm putting 3 bags down. I will come back for them later. They were too heavy to go the rest of the way. That's what the 10 of Wands is like when it's this gentleman on the front of the card, usually carrying this big, heavy load, like this big, heavy stick. He realizes, the energy of the 10 of Wands realizes that it's okay to put something down at some point in life. And it doesn't mean that you have to put it down forever. It means that at the right time, you can come back like I did at the end of my driveway. You can go back and you can pick things up later. And I'm thinking about that dynamic here, about the fact that you might end up having a renewal where you pick up some old thing, that maybe an old thing that was connected to your childhood, because we've got 3 cards of family coming up here. This could be a relationship that you pick back up, or this can be something from your childhood, like a way of being, something that you enjoyed, something that would bring you supreme overflowing joy that you once thought you were putting down, and instead you go back and you pick it back up, and that idea wells up in you in this Mercury retrograde. If it's not, hey, I want to go and contact that person or that family member that I once was speaking to, then it's like, hey, I want to pick up that hobby or that habit, that thing that used to make me smile. And it seems like you kind of make that decision here in this Mercury retrograde in this month, the tail end of February and the beginning of March. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put these cards back in for a second, and I'm going to shuffle them out. And I'm going to ask that question very quickly, because to me it looks like you are balancing something out by picking up something. Ooh, my children are very loud right now. Don't mind while I shuffle. I want to ask what it is you're picking back up. What is it that's going to make you supremely happy, since you have that card in your future position of overflowing abundance? Let's see what we have here. We have the King of Cups in the reversal. The 2 of Wands in the reversal. Oh, snap, eh? And the Page of Wands. Wow. It's a wild dynamic because the King of Cups is here. It's called the King of Clouds in this tarot deck. In the reversal, I'm going to pull some extra cards for this too, because in the reversal, the King of Cards is somebody who feels like he was swindled out of something. It's like somebody who wore a mask or literally scammed or was dishonest to another person or to themselves. It's being like at the heart of this part of the reading is somebody with the 2 of Wands who was at a crossroads in life. They may have chosen to lie to themselves, or they may have chosen a dishonest way of being in life. Here's the crossroads, right? It's like a train track. It's like, let's go this way or let's go that way. That's what the 2 of Wands is about. It's in the reversal position. It usually denotes that a person chose a sorrow-filled way. They chose a path that included more pain than they needed to. On this side of the tracks, you could say, is the dishonesty, is hiding themselves, is masking themselves. What makes it weird is that on this side with the Page of Wands, right, we've got the 2 of Wands, and now here it's called the Page of Waves, signified by these beautiful dolphins who are coming together. It's the card of delighting in, specifically, I know on this deck it's delighting in adventure, but in traditional tarot, Arthur Edward Waite, over 100 years ago, I use that word specifically because it's so true, that phrase, over 100 years ago, this was the card of it was called the Faithful and Committed Lover. It was the depiction of a youth, a younger person, a teenager, an adolescent who was committing in the card of the wands. He's committing to some kind of a craft or person. So when I ask the question, I'm going to shuffle a little bit more here, but when I ask the question, what is it that you're picking up? What is it that you're choosing to have a new delight and adventure with in the future? It looks like something, actually the Six of Cups was about this too. It's about renewing something that you had, but you chose the wrong path in it before. Because that King of Cups feels like you were swindled out of something. Either you chose the wrong path or somebody else chose the wrong path, and it was connected to some format of dishonesty to yourself or dishonesty to other. Whoever it was that chose this wrong path, you're getting a renewal in that circumstance. But I'm still like, even this card though, Page of Waves or Page of Wands is like commitment to a person, the true and faithful lover, but it is a person in the tarot. It's a gentleman, a teenager who's holding his wand in his hand. I'm not using that as a pun. It's literally, traditionally, he's holding a wand. So it's his desire to fulfill some kind of a craft. Because what do you do with a wand, right? If you were to hold a wand in your hand, it's like abracadabra, I want what I want. Poof, you take the wand and you like make it magic. Think Harry Potter, okay? You make it magically happen. Well, you guys, whatever it is you want, that's what you do with your wand. You want a job? Poof, you got the wand, you get the job. You know what I mean? If you wanted a little pet dog, you would wave your magic wand in fairy tale land and poof, there's a dog in front of you. So whatever it is, it's what you want. If what you want is a person, you're going to get that thing. You're going to delight in the adventures with that person. If what you want is a craft of some sort, because a wand represents the creative things that you do, then you're going to bring that craft in. See, even again, the Wheel of Fortune in the reversal, a cycle of regeneration. It's all about renewing something that you once had. And what about this path? The Queen of Snow. I had a feeling. It's partnership. I said it from the beginning. Looks like a love reading to me. And the Queen of Snow or the Queen of Swords comes back in. This person that you had grief with, or some kind of a situation that you perhaps developed a lot of grieving in a family, and maybe that family grief is what led you down the wrong path at some point. And with the Wheel of Fortune here, it's like, well, what is the wheel? The Wheel of Fortune was the wheel of the heavens. It was your destiny. And when it turns in the reversal, it means that you went on a path that you weren't, not necessarily not supposed to, but you had to go through it. You had to go through it and it sucked. Sorry, I just had to pause my video there because my son was getting frustrated. I'm going to leave you off with that, though. To me, it looks like what you're doing in this Mercury retrograde is starting something over and helping yourself delve through your history and any grief that was had in the past, especially grief that was connected to going down a wrong path, making a decision that was a little dishonest at the time, and giving yourself another opportunity. Because to me, with all of this overflowing happiness that you have in the future, it looks like the opportunity or the old thing that you put down, whether that's a craft, a hobby, or a lover or something, it doesn't look like it's over. It looks like you have a chance for renewal. And that's what I was saying about the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups in the reversal position historically was the card of renewing something as well. It's all over this reading. I'm going to leave you guys off with that. Thank you very much for joining me here, and ciao for now.